Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of SFOF Fiscal Focus. I'm Derek Kreifels, your host, who serves as the president of SFOF. I'm really excited to have you all here with us today. I have several announcements that I want to make before we get started. First of all, the SFOF summer meeting, typically we would be at this time, I don't know about your social media feeds, but I'm getting all these fun reminders of old SFOF spring national meetings this time in years past. We would typically be gathering together in person, but with COVID and the unknown of that, we decided to move our meeting to the summertime. And fortunately, we were invited by the American Legislative Exchange Council to be included in their contract with their hotel and conference facility. So we're doing it in conjunction with ALEC. And just a reminder, it is July 27th through the 30th in Salt Lake City. All of the information for that event can be found on our website at sfof.com/SLC for Salt Lake City, in case you missed that. The early bird registration ends on June 11th. And for all of the state officials on here, state staff, your reservations for airline in order to be reimbursed needs to be made by July 6th. You are welcome to reach out to Melanie at melanie@sfof.com to get your hotel reservations made, again, just for state staff and state officials. If you are a corporate partner, you will want to go to that website, that sfof.com/SLC, and there you will find information about the meeting, and you can also book your hotel reservation online. So we're super excited about that, super excited to see everybody in person. We've already got about 25 folks registered. And so it's going to be a great meeting. I want to announce that our fall meeting this November, the dates have changed. Not very often do you get a call from the hotel and they say, hey, if you're willing to change dates, we'll give you a big discount. And it was actually our original dates that we wanted. So it was kind of a no-brainer for us. So the dates have changed to November 2nd through the 5th. It was originally scheduled for the 8th through the 11th. So we'll be sending out some more formal emails about that soon. Smart Women, Smart Money. If you've always been curious about what that is all about, we have our next virtual conference coming up on Friday, June the 4th, hosted by Kentucky Treasurer Allison Ball, Leslie Bilby's here, Lauren Ferguson from the Kentucky office. And so we would love to have you join us. It is a free conference to anyone interested in learning more about financial empowerment, financial education. You can also register. You do have to be registered for the event at swsmkentucky.com, swsmkentucky.com. And so that is open to anyone. Also, in preparation of Salt Lake City, we will be doing all of our corporate partners' private meetings virtually in advance. And so if you are a gold level sponsor or higher, you will want to reach out to me so that we can get your private virtual meeting scheduled. Again, what those are, it's an opportunity for our sponsors to have at least 30 minutes to present on any topic that they wish. There's no other corporate partners allowed in those virtual meetings. And we do encourage all of our state offices to be represented either by the elected official or a senior staff member or both during those calls. So we're excited to be able to do those virtually so that we can have more time together in Salt Lake City. Lastly, just a reminder, these Fiscal Focus virtual meetings, they started in early February. We've had a great group of elected officials that we've been able to spotlight. Next Tuesday, we'll be spotlighting Missouri Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick. We also have on the schedule June 22nd, Idaho Treasurer Julie Ellsworth. It's a little ways out, but we're scheduling still for all of that time in between So if you are a state staffer or a representative of another state office and your boss has not had the opportunity to be spotlighted yet, please email me at derek@sfof.com so that we can get your fiscal focus scheduled. You can also find on our website at sfof.com/fiscal focus. You'll see all the places to register for these, as well as the old videos of each one. If you've missed one in the past and you said, hey, that Treasurer Mitchell seems like a really neat lady, I'd like to get to know her more, you can certainly go on there and click on Treasurer Mitchell's video, and you'll get to see our conversation that we had together on this fiscal focus. So with that, I want to shift to welcoming Louisiana Treasurer John Schroeder and his team. We're honored to have you all here today. I'm going to read a short bio of Treasurer Schroeder. John Schroeder was elected Louisiana State Treasurer in 2017 and was re-elected in 2019 to a 4-year term. As a businessman and entrepreneur, he believes government should manage its money like you manage your businesses and households. He believes government should be more transparent and accountable, which would help to restore faith in government. In his first 2 years in office, the Treasury returned more unclaimed property checks than any other year on record and saved the state millions of dollars by renegotiating contracts and forcing departments to restructure their borrowing habits. Treasurer Schroeder is a U.S. Army vet and served 10 years in the Louisiana House of Representatives. He is a graduate of East Jefferson High School and Southeastern Louisiana University. Above all, he is a husband of 34 years, father of 2, and an extremely proud grandfather to 2 grandchildren. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Louisiana Treasurer John Schroeder.
Thank you, Derek, and good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody. It'll be nice to say it's nice to be with everybody versus seeing everybody.
Yes.
But at least Zoom has provided us a pretty unique opportunity to continue working and networking, which I think is very important. So appreciate the opportunity, Derek, and to your team. I first want to start off by introducing my team, because it truly is a team, and I couldn't do what I do without them. I have a lot of them on today. I'll start with my Desi Mack, who's my administrative assistant, Laura Lopez, who's my chief financial officer, Kathy Stewart is my governmental affairs person, Michelle Mulholland's on, is my communications director, Leela Fos, who manages our state bond commission, Tony Ligi, who's my executive counsel, Kitty LaBelle, which some may know because she's an icon in unclaimed property world, and she's a director here in Louisiana, and then Nancy Keaton, who is my first assistant. And I truly mean what I say. I couldn't do what I do without this team. They do a great job, and I asked them to be on today because one of the benefits of this organization is our networking reach. So my team is your team. If there's anything that we can help with, don't hesitate to reach out. As Derek said, I was very fortunate. I say it's fortunate to serve in the legislature before I became state treasurer, because there was so very many things that I already knew about, and I really was able to hit the ground running. My major objective, quite frankly, which is talked about in my sort of bio, is to reinstill some faith and credibility into government process. I used to say that people were losing faith in government. Now I say people have lost faith in government. So, so that means doing what we need to do, whether it's taking on major companies, which we've done since I've been in office, some of the largest banks in the world, to some of the political might that was here at the Capitol. My predecessor, which most of you probably know, is U.S. Senator John Kennedy, was a very good state treasurer and extremely successful. But my attitude as an entrepreneur is that there's always room for improvement, and you have to continuously take a fresh look and be willing to experiment and change things up because it's paramount, I believe, either moving forward or moving backwards. So one of the first things I did as state treasurer that I noticed was just the total lack of attention to cybersecurity. I have a military background. I was a military intelligence and CID special agent in the Army, but I was really alarmed when I became treasurer, the lackadaisical approach to cybersecurity. So I enlisted our state bank, which was JP Morgan Chase, that has been absolutely outstanding to help analyze our processes as a department and to test where we were vulnerable. And obviously we found those. So we do have some legislation actually our legislative session starts Monday. And so we'll have some legislation that will create some accountability for the rest of the state government that the Department of Treasury will oversee. We've also made some other improvements, and I'll touch on what I think makes Louisiana unique. And I try to keep to things that that we've made big changes in or special efforts to. I mean, obviously, I think most treasurers have very similar responsibilities. But one of the things I campaigned on, and I still preach about today, is transparency. So very early on, we worked with OpenGov to create a transparency website, sort of modeled after Ohio checkbook. And because I really believe through transparency was the best way to reinstill faith in government. So that's something that I campaigned on, and within the first year we launched that. So now people can go to latreasury.com, click on transparency. You can see our debt, our investments, our capital outlay, just about anything that goes on in state government now, you can see it from this website. I'm, as an entrepreneur and business person, I tell people unclaimed property was really the place where I was able to use a lot of my skill set, to be honest with you, from an entrepreneur standpoint. And I know Kitty LaBelle's on with us today. I brag on her all the time because the numbers that we produce in this program is downright unbelievable. When the 2 years prior to me coming in office, we returned about $95 million. My first 2 full years in office, we did $156 million. On an average year, we did 30,000 claims. My first full year, we did 120,000. My second full year, we did 134,000. And I can't wait to see what Kitty's got up her sleeve for this next year. But really has done a great job. We passed legislation to allow the Department of Revenue to share their data with unclaimed property data, which allowed us to match addresses and send out thousands of more checks a year. That's now done annually. We use a lot of commercial data resources now. We also made it possible that just about the entire claim is paperless, so you can do it online. We increased our fast track. We've really streamlined the process. But one of the things I found out, as many of you all have unclaimed property programs, the statute allowed for 7% to be spent in administrative costs. Well, when I analyzed it, we were only spending 2.5. So we initiated a statewide awareness campaign. I'm using traditional media, digital advertising, which included social media, and our numbers just exploded. So now these are very standard operating procedures now. The legislature last session, agreed to let me expand that program by 7 positions. So we've sort of reorganized. The pandemic did teach us a lot of things that we are doing today. We didn't do a great job in outreach to people who don't typically check unclaimed property, which is local government, municipalities, small businesses. So we now have a team that is charged with doing that, and it's increased our outcomes really big time. Some of you have heard me talk in the past. This is something that's been a 3-year battle for me since I've been treasurer. We finally passed this past voting season, a constitutional amendment to protect the unclaimed property money. The reason I did this, what prompted it, was our outcomes was so good that we did not have money in the last 45 days of the fiscal year in the last 2 fiscal years to pay claims. So it wasn't easy to go to the administration, who in my situation is, a Democrat governor with a Republican treasurer. That doesn't always go real well. But it took me 3 years of fighting to get this trust fund done, and the people overwhelmingly supported across the state of Louisiana with almost a 70% yes vote. So that was really came out of a lawsuit that the governor decided to don't ever tell a lawyer to sue you, because they will. I said I wasn't going to turn the money over last year, and we got into this court battle, but the settlement was sending this to the ballot and let the people decide, and the people very strongly voted in favor of it. So very happy for that. And again, they do a great job at unclaimed property here in Louisiana. One of the things that is unique to Louisiana is we have what is called a state bond commission. Every political subdivision in the state, whether it be a town, a parish, Louisiana does a lot of things different than everybody else. We have parishes instead of counties. So every parish, every entity, political subdivision that incurs debt must come to the state bond commission for permission. It's like the state banking board, and it's every major person in state government from the governor down sits on this board. It's considered to be a pretty powerful board. I don't look at it as power. I see it as a real necessity, especially during poor financial times. So as I said, the whole leadership of state government sits on this board, and as treasurer, I am the chairman. I do note, when I first became treasurer, I had mentioned about taking on some big banks. 2 of the biggest banks in the world tried to influence some policy here in Louisiana on Second Amendment rights. And as a military veteran and a former law enforcement guy, I took great exception to that, and we blocked these 2 banks from doing business with the state of Louisiana on negotiated deals, and these bond deals, and I'm sure most states are the same way. Some we can negotiate, some are bidded. So all the bonds that were negotiated, I refused to do business with them. So that sparked a little news around the country. We do work very closely with local governments, and in my opinion, it's not necessarily a good thing, because the locals have a lot of influence here at the state capitol. It may or may not be that way around the country, but it's probably one of the biggest problems that I see. There's way too much influence here in Baton Rouge, and the legislature steered a lot by what's going on with locals. But one of the things we do, or as I do as state treasurer, from the bond commissions, we help them refinance their debt. We've saved in the last 12 months about $581 million for the locals across the state of Louisiana by refinancing their debt. We have a long way to go. I want to see that number somewhere in the $2.5 to $3 billion range, within the next 6 months. I mean, we're seeing unprecedented interest rates. We've also refinanced a lot of our state debt. We've saved about $286 million so far. One of the many boards that I sit on is also called the Fiscal Review Committee. And I don't know if this is done across other states, but as treasurer, myself, the Louisiana State Auditor, and the State Attorney General sit on a fiscal review committee, which means basically we're charged with taking over and monitoring municipalities that are in poor fiscal condition. And these are court appointed. When we go in and we basically take over towns from the financial dealings, and we put in a fiscal manager, and it sort of takes all the politics out of it. And it actually works pretty well. The hard part is to find these folks to go do it, because they often are rural communities that are struggling with infrastructure, and they're using, it's classic robbing Peter to pay Paul. So it's something we spend a lot of time on, and one of the many responsibilities that I have as treasurer. I also am the chairman of the Louisiana Asset Management Pool, which has grown to over $3 billion. It was around just short of $2 billion when I took over as treasurer. So it's doing extremely well. One of the unique things in Louisiana with the pandemic, with the CARES Act money, the legislature charged me last session to administer a $275 million grant program for small businesses impacted by the pandemic. I basically had 6 months to get $275 million out the door, which we successfully did. Over 20,000 businesses across Louisiana got an average of, I think, $12,000 per business. It was a huge success, a lot of work. Very pleased that of the $275 million, $162 million went to minorities, women, and veteran-owned businesses. We have obviously an investment team. They manage over $7 billion in assets daily. My finance team manages a cash flow of about $40 billion annually. As state treasurer, I sit on 29 active boards and commissions. That by itself is a job, because many of them are retirement boards, about 8 or 9 retirement boards. And they just vary in a lot of things, but I do go to a lot of those meetings, and takes a lot of time out my month. Dealing with the pandemic, Louisiana is positioned to receive right around $13.7 billion in federal relief, and a good portion, a good deal of money is being spent to prop up our budget. We did it last year. We're fixing to do it again starting on Monday. According to Moody's, states that are reliant mostly on tourism and energy were the most impacted by the pandemic. Well, New Orleans is one of the top 10 tourist cities in the world, and we certainly are relying on our energy. And so that's been a big problem. According to Moody's, after Alaska, Louisiana, annualized revenues have been the most impacted by COVID-19. So I think almost 54% of our budget this year in Louisiana is going to be federal money, which isn't, I tell people that's not something I like to brag about, but that's the reality of where we are right now in this state. We are a very poor state. We have about 4.6 million people. So we're a small state and a poor state on top of that. I see the treasurer's role, as I've heard many of you say, as the state banker, but I also take the sort of a watchdog on state budgeting and sound fiscal policies. As a legislator, I sat on the appropriations committee for most of my term, and I say most of my term because I got kicked off in my 3rd year as a freshman legislator. I got kicked off the appropriations committee as a Republican under a Republican governor. So I've sort of been screaming on fiscal issues for 11 years now, and I continue to do that. Being treasurer has really I've been able to elevate that to where at least more people will listen. I'm not saying they're going to follow what I say, but I certainly, as you know, have the ability to get the mic and blast off on things when necessary. But I do often find myself on all these boards that I sit on. Everybody knows the type of retirement issues we're facing and the deficits across government. So when I show up to one of their board meetings, I don't get a lot of smiles and pats on the back. So, but I think my role and my staff's role, because we make everyone, whether I show up or I send somebody from my staff, somebody's in every one of those board meetings, and we're really there to be a sounding board, to give good advice on sound fiscal policy, which always doesn't go very well. So I do tell people in some of our calls that Louisiana has really prospered over the years from hurricanes. I mean, it's not good to have a hurricane. That's the negative part of it. The positive side, that we constantly have a flow of federal money. I looked at the list the other day. We have almost $4 billion right now, dating all the way back to Katrina, that's still out there being spent or needs to be spent on numerous hurricanes and flooding events. We had the BP oil spill that pumped mega, although it wasn't federal money, mega private money into the state, which is still being dealt with. And certainly now we have the pandemic money. So federal money has become the way of life in Louisiana. I told some treasurers when the pandemic first started, if you need any help on how to spend your federal money, just call us down here in Louisiana, because unfortunately we have a lot of experience with that. So Derek, that is a very fast look at the Department of Treasury. You know, as I said earlier, my main objective is, as a veteran, I believe strongly in public service. My total goal is to help restore faith in government in this process. My team has done a great job with that. They have bought into that. I say bought into it. They were doing it prior to, you know, state employees tend to get a little rap sometimes, but by the taxpayer. But ultimately, they come to work every day like I do to try to create, you know, better government for the people that we serve. I do, before I kick it back to you, I just want to give my first assistant, Nancy Keaton, just an opportunity to say, hey, she participates when I'm not around, and Derek knows her, and some of y'all may recognize her. So I wanted to just give her a minute here also.
Thank you, Treasurer. Hi, I'm Nancy Keaton. As Treasurer Schroeder said, I'm First Assistant State Treasurer at Louisiana. As you can see from the Treasurer's comments, we are doing a lot of things in Louisiana. And that's just a brief summary version of everything we do to fit it in for today. But of course, we couldn't do any of this without the great team that we have. I know Treasurer Schroeder already introduced a lot of them, but really it's the folks here at Treasury that make all of this happen. And I also think this series is a really great opportunity to be able to hear from other treasurers. I've been on all these calls, and it's been great to hear a lot of the things that the other states are doing, and hopefully for y'all to hear what we're doing. And as Treasurer Schroeder said in the beginning, if there's anything we can ever do, if you have any questions about anything that's going on in Louisiana, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. Thanks.
That's great. Well, thank you, Nancy. It's always a pleasure working with you, and Treasurer Schroeder. You are you're kind of the model of you know, SFOF treasurers. You know, we hope that all treasurers can aspire to be like Treasurer Schroeder, in that he is you know, always firmly planted in free market principles, isn't afraid of a fight when it's, especially when it's the right thing to do. And frankly, I'm always amazed when folks like Treasurer Schroeder, who obviously didn't need to run for state treasurer. He's a successful businessman. Thank you for your service and for your service to the country, but also then again serving your state taxpayers, and just really appreciate the example that you are to state treasurers and state auditors all over the country. I do have a few questions that have trickled in. If you have a question for Treasurer Schroeder or a member of his team, feel free to just let me know in the chat feature. But a few have come in, and the first one is, Treasurer, when you launched your latreasury.com transparency website, was there any resistance from the legislature, from either side of the aisle, in terms of folks that just didn't want to be completely transparent?
Yeah, you would think that was a no-brainer, but I say this jokingly. I was quoted in the newspaper last week. I won't mention what public official I was talking about, but some of y'all may be able to guess. But I said, I could say that chocolate ice cream cures cancer and they're going to eat vanilla. So, I mean, it's become that way. And I believe we have to work through that. I mean, I've heard a lot of y'all talk about that before. The politics today gets involved in everything. So absolutely there was some pushback, but it was the right thing to do. And so it eventually passed, though, and I think part of the reason that it passed is that they didn't give me any money to do it. So I think a lot of people figured that, okay, we'll give them this mandate, but we're not going to give them any money. And what are they going to do? Well, we did it, and we had to pay for it, and we still pay for it. It's an annual fee, but a lot of you know OpenGov, and I met OpenGov through SFOF at the first meeting that I went to in Kansas, maybe, I don't remember where.
Kansas City, yeah.
But and I got to be friends with Zach, and I'm telling you, he's a cool dude, but he's pretty freaking smart, and been very impressed with our website. Our biggest challenge, though, to be honest with you, is getting people to come to the website. It was this big push for transparency. I guess that was 3 years ago. I had just been elected, and a lot of the campaign was a lot. The topic of transparency was out there, but we spent all this time and money doing it, but we're still trying to figure out a way, Derek, to get people to go to the site to see it and look at it. So we're constantly working on that. And I'm going to give OpenGov one more plug. OpenGov came in and ran our Main Street Recovery Grant Program with the pandemic money, and really did a fabulous job. And I know that they've been big supporters of this organization. And I would suggest to you guys, when you have some time at the convention, you ought to sit and visit with those guys.
They are great. Another question on the constitutional amendment for unclaimed property. Someone's asked if that was done as a separate campaign. Did you use state funds to help promote the ballot issue? Kind of how did that work? Did you get a lot of earned media activity that got people talking about it, that knew, that were well educated about it when they went to the ballot box?
Yeah, well, you see Michelle Milholland on the screen. She gets a lot of that credit. But let me tell you what happened sort of indirectly of fighting about this for 3 years. It was constantly in the media. And we would pass the bill through the House only to get it in the Senate and get blocked, or the governor would veto it. So it just got tremendous coverage for 3 years. So when we finally got it passed at the end of the third year, heck, everybody in Louisiana knows about unclaimed property now. I mean, I remember when I first became treasurer, and you go around on your speaking tours and you ask people, hey, how many people in here know of unclaimed property? And if you had 100 people in the room, you might only have 5 people raise their hand. I can't go anywhere now, and everybody raises their hand. Yeah, I know where. I know. I mean, we wrote 400,000 checks in the last couple of years. So, I mean, there's only 4.5 million people in Louisiana. So what we did was, when I first started this, and this is a little bit of a long answer, but I left time to do this. But what I did initially, Derek, I was trying to come up with a way. We all have infrastructure problems, and you introduced me to the treasurer from Georgia. He's the treasurer again. I haven't seen him around. I don't know what happened to him now that he's in the Republic of Georgia, but I haven't seen him. But what's his name again, Derek?
Treasurer Steve McCoy.
Yes, Steve McCoy. I called him a couple years ago because they have a pretty good infrastructure program. It's a revolving loan program, and they don't utilize any state assets or money to run that program. So we came up with the idea to invest unclaimed property money. It would earn some interest, but we could use it to seed infrastructure projects around the state for small rural communities who can't get money. Well, the legislature loved it. Everybody loved it except one person, and that was the governor. Now, the governor felt like it would give the treasurer too much power. Well, and it really didn't. I mean, it went through the same processes. It just created a pot of money. But Georgia now, in California as well, and I know there's a couple other states that do this, have infrastructure banks now that don't utilize state money. It's basically self-funded. So it brought so much attention to it that by the time we got to the ballot, we didn't have to do a lot. And coupled with our advertising that we amped up 3 years ago, and we probably spending about $300,000 a year on advertising across the state. And we watched our numbers explode. But the constitutional amendment, because it was a state money, we could not spend money campaigning. I could do it personally as state treasurer, and I could go do radio programs and TV and things like that, but I couldn't use state dollars on any type of campaign. I spent a little money out of my own personal campaign to do a couple things, but really, but the good thing about us having a fight for 3 years, it basically advertised it for 3 years. When we finally got to the point, everybody in Louisiana knew about it, and it passed by 70%. Michelle, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but that's pretty much how we did it.
I would just say earned media was key. Absolutely.
That's great. That's great. Treasurer, are you term limited?
By law, I am not. I will tell you personally, I haven't said this publicly, but I will term limit myself. I just haven't decided whether that's going to be another 4 years or 8 years, but I do not plan on getting old in this seat.
That's great. Any other questions for the treasurer or any of his team? Some of you are sneaky and you text me. Any other questions? I see we have a few other treasurer's offices on here. Treasurer Beadle of North Dakota, thank you for being here. He's one of our new treasurers. So Treasurer Beadle, Treasurer Schroeder is a great treasurer to learn from. If you ever have questions, it'd be great to get you two together. I see we've got our Nebraska office represented. Of course, we have our stellar Indiana office here. I think we have Arizona and Missouri and Idaho and Kentucky. And then I just want to do a shout out to some of our sponsors too. Of course, Public Trust Advisors, our diamond sponsors. We're so thankful for everything that you all do for us. Also Federated Hermes, MasterCard, and Itedium, our platinum sponsors. And then some of our gold sponsors, Academy Securities, Clearwater Analytics, American Council of Life Insurers. I just want to say a shout out to ACLI real quick. Joanne Waiters is with us. Joanne, if you want to turn take yourself off mute for just a second and say hello.
Yes, thank you very much, Derek. My name is Joanne Waiters, and I'm newly joining you all. I took over from my colleague, Bruce Ferguson, and it is such a pleasure. Last week was my first opportunity to join in, and this is my second one, and I am so impressed by the state treasurers, and I really appreciate you all welcoming me. I thank you very much.
Well, we're excited to have you and looking forward to getting to know you more. We, of course, got over the last 9 years of gotten to know Bruce Ferguson very well, and he's still very much working. He's not retired. I made the mistake of saying, "So did you do? Are you early retiring?" And he said, "No. It's just his purview of responsibilities with ACLI has changed." A new assignment that he was excited about, and we're just as excited to have Joanne joining us. So hopefully we'll all get a chance to meet you, Joanne, in Salt Lake City if you're able to travel and be with us. I also want to do a shout out to Israel Bonds. I know Larry Berman's here. Treasurer, FYI, he's a new resident of your state.
He's not new. He's been here a while.
Well, yes, that's true. But now he's not sharing time anymore.
I did hear him say that. Yes.
I also want to thank Visa, of course, OpenGov, Fidelity Investments, Robin Geller, Redmond and Dowd, and JP Morgan for all their support. I also want to give a shout out. One of our board members has joined us, Dee Dee Bass Wilbon. Dee Dee, I don't know if you're able to say hello or share your camera. She's listening. She might be running now to the camera because she wasn't expecting this.
I so wasn't, Derek. Good morning. Hello, how are you?
Thank you for being here, Dee Dee. We appreciate it. Dee Dee is one of our newest board members that joined us in January. She is based in Maryland in the DC area, and she's been very engaged in a lot of free market activities over the last several years. So I'm looking forward to y'all getting to know her. Any other questions for Treasurer or his team? Well, if not, I don't think I said Singularis Group. Thank you also for being here. If you ever need some design work or direct mail work or media work, Echo and her husband, Chris, are principals at Singularis Group, and they're a great sponsor of ours as well. So with that, if there's any other state staffers on here, again, who have not scheduled a Fiscal Focus call for their boss, please reach out to me, derek@sfof.com. Would love to get those scheduled between now and the end of June. And again, if you're a corporate sponsor at the gold level or higher, you do have the ability to schedule a private 30-minute virtual meeting, and that is with all state officials and their state staff. So you will come on, you'll be the only corporate sponsor on that call. And it's a way for you to get better acquainted with them, for them to ask questions about you, about anything that's maybe on a sales side of your company, or it could be a state or federal relations issue that you're experiencing issues with that you want to share about. And so we're going to start getting those going here just as soon as possible. So you'll be hearing more from me about those. Again, thank you everybody for being here today. We know that you have a lot of ways to spend your time, and we're honored that you are all willing to come and spend 45 minutes with us to get to know Treasurer Schroeder and his team. Treasurer, again, thank you for everything that you do for SFOF. We hope we get to see you in Salt Lake City and bring your beautiful wife as well.
I think we are already signed up, Derek. I'm so looking forward to seeing people, and for those that haven't gone before, you know, unfortunately, a lot of times I had 2 statewide campaigns within 3 years. So Derek knows I've really struggled to get out of Baton Rouge and get out of Louisiana, but I am looking forward to serving 4 years now. I get to settle down a little bit and go participate. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's great. Well, we're looking forward to hosting everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll all be together in Salt Lake soon. So thanks again, and hope you all have a wonderful week. And we'll see you next Tuesday with Missouri Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick. Bye-bye.
Thank you.